Thank you for watching the video today. My name is Dr. Peter Papadogiannis. I'm the co-founder of HeadSet, and today I'll be talking about one of our assessments, and it is a pretty unique assessment. It really is the first of its kind in sports psychology or mental skills training, and it looks at identifying athletes and developing athletes, but it takes it from a new approach. And the test is a situational judgment test in sport. And we'll go through the specifications today, how we developed it, different reports that we have, and we're super excited about this test. A little agenda for us today as we go through just different slides and the specifications as mentioned, a little bit about what is HeadSet, kind of doing this a little bit differently this time around and differently from others. We'll go through the development, the stages of the situational judgment test in sport, who can benefit from it, how they can benefit from it. And at the very end, we're going to go through our various situational judgment test in sports reports that we have. For those that don't know about HeadSet, HeadSet is a mental training platform. It was created by myself, my colleague and partner in HeadSet, Dr. Jason Galea, but we had colleagues, sports psychs who work with various teams, coaches at elite levels, hundreds of athletes helped us out in the development of HeadSet. And what HeadSet is, it is an application. We have an app, it's web-based as well. And what we do is we assess athletes, and then based on the assessment, we customize programs each and every month. So it's ongoing. You can use HeadSet from the beginning of your career all the way to the end, and it always changes. No two people go through HeadSet exactly the same. And as mentioned, you can go, it's on Google Play, it's on the App Store. You can register through our website as well. Each are options for athletes, but it's targeted to specific athletes. It's confidential, it's anonymous, and they can do their development work. In creating HeadSet and now in using it with athlete and athlete groups, we focus on 5 different pillars. That's really important in regards to our development, but also research work. Our 5 main pillars for HeadSet is awareness, confidence, stress management or performing under pressure, resilience, and motivation. There's more that we go through with athletes on HeadSet and customizing programs online for them, but those are the main 5. When we do development work through our application and the use of machine learning and artificial intelligence in creating customized programs, we use what are called self-reports. We'll ask athletes in regards to those 5 pillars, we'll ask them questions, and then they answer on their own through all these questions per month, how they are doing. But it's up to the person who is the athlete to report how they're doing. And they have to be open and honest with themselves to be able to get the most out of the development work through HeadSet. But what we have found over the years, when athletes, when teams, when people who are trying to identify talent, coaches, scouts, recruiters, general managers of organizations or teams, when they try to select people or recruit people for teams, and they want to use mental skills as a competency, it's hard to have people report honestly with self-reports. They're easily distorted. So a lot of athletes know what you're looking at. They're all mentally tough through HeadSet and the self-reports. So different environments need different assessments. And we decided to create something that you can't fake, you can't distort. And through the situational judgment test format, you can't do it. So if you're looking for an athlete or athletes, you're trying to identify and recruit them for your team or organization, this is a great product to use. Plus, it's sports specific. This is the only one of its kind in sport. When sports psychs or recruiters or coaches use assessments, they don't even use sport-specific assessments. I put here cognitive tests. They'll use cognitive tests, but they're not sport-specific cognitive tests. They may use personality tests. It's on a sport specific personality test. And if someone will try to observe the athlete with their mental skills in real time, it's very tough. That eyeball test, you can't jump into the athlete to know how they are feeling or know how they're coping. You're just observing it. You can't jump in, right? So the person who's recruiting or identifying the athlete, they truly don't know. And if they ask others for references, as one scout put it to me recently, all athletes are saints. All athletes are mentally tough, right? So it's not reliable. We don't have reliable and valid measures in sport for mental skills. And that's really important. That's why we're doing it. And that's why we're doing this differently. So what is a situational judgment test? A situational judgment test is a test that assesses an individual's capabilities or abilities. Participants, in this case, it's athletes, are presented with specific situations and challenges in sport. For us, it's before they compete, during they compete, and after they compete. And then we give them options. We give them a situation or a challenge, and then they have to go through the options and figure out which is the best option in order. So it's like you're giving them a test or a task, and then they have to figure it out. And that's what they do in real time, right? So why are we going to give them an assessment that doesn't actually have them do what they do in their sport? So we are testing the athletes. They can't fake it. And then they have to be able to mentally cope through these questions. And this is where we are different, and super excited about how we are different. The benefits of this situational judgment test in sport format, or SJTS for short, is reliable and valid. They're actually more predictive through research. So they're more predictive than self-reports, in personality, or ability tests like cognition. You can't give a positive impression of yourself. You can't fake it. And again, sports specific. And that's where this will be a true value add for those people who are trying to recruit and identify and develop athletes in sport. All right, so we're going to get into the specifics. First, development. We'll take just a little bit of time for development. I'll kind of take you through the past really quickly, and then we'll talk about those reports that we have. So the development of the SJTS, what we did first, we started writing questions with different athlete situations. Again, before you compete, that's important, right? In regards to the mental skills, we want athletes who are ready. During, we want them to be able to cope during with all their mental challenges and physical challenges. And then after competition, this is kind of one that people don't talk about very much in sports psychology or mental skills training. How do you cope after competition to get to the next practice, the next game? When we wrote the items, we focused on those 5 pillars that I mentioned: awareness, regulation, confidence, resilience, and motivation. We had 10 questions approximately for 50 total items, 10 questions per pillar for 50 questions. And then we had 5 questions per question. So 5 options per question. Before we started to collect data, we asked multiple professionals in sports psychology and other fields of psychology to look through the items. Were there any spelling mistakes? Was the grammar off? Is it specific to sport? Could athletes relate to these, right? Situations, were they accurate? So we got a lot of feedback early on from our colleagues and people in sports psych. So this is what an early question looked like, right? They look somewhat similar to today in regards to its present form, but here's one. Before a game competition, you mentally rehearse how you're going to perform, but then you recognize that your rehearsal is not going as planned. That happens to athletes all the time. So that's an awareness question, 1 of 10. And then we had 10 more for each of the remaining 4 pillars. Then we had 5 different options that you see. And then we had 1 from each of the pillars, right? So that's the very beginning. Then we had those sports psychs and other people in psychology take a look through them for feedback. What did we do afterwards? We refined them, we fixed them, and then we finally created a scoring key. Our first scoring key looked at each of those options, but we rated it from 1 to 5. 1 was always, this option is not effective for future performance, or it's very effective. Then we started to collect data with hundreds of athletes. And then we selected experts in sports psych, masters or PhDs, to also take it just like an athlete would. And then we compared all the athletes and the experts, the sports psychs. And then we compared to see like, which is the best option of the five? Which is the second best option? Which is the third best option? Which is the fourth and fifth? Like, which is the most effective? Which is second most effective? So there's another question after we revise them. Here it says, during a game competition, you're feeling fatigued. Your decrease in energy is impacting your ability to focus. We gave it to hundreds of athletes, and then they had to rate each of the five. You don't see all five, they're there just for the picture. But an option would be you use specific words to help you believe that you will get through the fatigue. Is that very effective, effective, somewhat effective, ineffective, or very effective? So the athlete would click the button and we would register it. But we asked sports psychs to do the same thing. They took the exact same item, and then we compared the sports psychs, those experts, with all the athletes. And now we know which is the best option, which is second best, which is third best. So that's how we cope, right? We have to pick the best options to move forward. And if you can get them all right in a row, you are skilled in that area, right? So you're actually working through the problems and we're giving them those options. Here's where we are now. We narrowed it down from about 50. Now we have 25. We use a different method now. We use what's called a rank order method. So those previous methods get us to where we are now, right? So that same question for before, you notice a skill you're working on has developed slower than expected. You have 5 options, and then you have to rate them in order of effectiveness. So for the first one, you remain optimistic and keep training. The person said, well, that's third best. The best one is you're aware of your slow progress. The second one. Second is you make sure that you get the right amount of sleep. Fourth, you feel frustrated. The fifth one is at the very end. But they don't know if that's the right answer. We have the scoring key. It should take the athlete 20 to 30 minutes tops for those 25 questions. And then we scored overall, right? The athletes who are able to get more right, it's a test, are seen as being more knowledgeable mentally on coping, or they're more mentally strong or tougher, right? That's what we want. That's what we want to look for. It's hard to then watch an athlete play at a field rink, but this can help us. And when we have this information, this could help with future questions or observations. And that's what we want. We want to make the best decision possible. So we have an overall score for our current SJTS. We have the 5 pillars. Plus we have 3 additional scales. An adaptability scale. Can you adapt to the environment? There's an interpersonal part. How do you relate to your coaches, sports science staff, fellow teammates, people watching you? And then lastly, we're figuring out a compete level. We hear a lot from people in the development of this, like, we want athletes who can compete, right? And we're looking through all the items to say, it's this item of the 25, this item to come up with a compete level. And we're also excited about these additional 3 scores on top of the pillars. All right, here are the report options. Last piece in regards to the specs. We have 4 different report options: an athlete report, a coach's report. It's a coach's report but it's for any stakeholder that's looking at recruitment or talent ID. A comparative report, also for the people looking at talent ID and recruiting. And then lastly is a team report. For the athlete report, we always give an introduction to the athlete who's taken it, of what the SJT is, and we thank them for taking it. Then we'll identify their strengths. We'll identify their development areas. What do they do well, and what do they need to develop? And then we'll give them a little bit of development work, like how can you continue to leverage your strengths? And then we'll give them suggestion or tips. And then how can you develop the areas that you're lowest in? And then we'll give them suggestions and tips. This only goes through the athlete. There's an athlete report. So if the athlete takes it and we want to give them a report back to see how they're doing, an example would be at a combine. All the athletes that are at the combine, they take our SJTS, and then we'll provide them with a report. But it only goes to the athlete. The second one is the coach's report. These are for the stakeholders. I mentioned them earlier: scouts, coaches, GMs, recruiters, talent ID individuals, such as that combine. This only goes to the stakeholder, doesn't go to the athlete, stakeholder specific. We'll do an introduction of what the SJTS is. We'll identify the athlete's strength, the development area, but the final two are important. We'll also help the stakeholder observe future areas. So if they're going to the rink, the field, the gym, this is what you look for in real time, right? You're just not freewheeling it. You are specific with what you are observing. And then we give you interview questions. If you are to want to further explore this athlete, we'll give you interview questions to help you explore further those areas for development, right? Digging deeper, and that's really important. The comparative report also goes to the stakeholders, but it's a different report. We will rank in order all the people that you want to identify: overall scores, pillar scores, adaptability, interpersonal, and compete. And then the final one's more about development. So if you have an existing team, we can also give the SJT. Remember, it's more reliable and valid and sports specific. So you have everyone on your team take it. We can amalgamate all of the information for all your players, but it could be an academy, it could be an individual team. We'll bring it all together. We'll look at the team strength, the team development areas, give suggestions for improvement or leveraging, but then we can break it down by, if we want to, positions. If we want to, we can break it down even further. So that's a little bit in regards to our situational judgment tests in sport. As mentioned, a first of its kind. We're super excited to use this and to be able to work with you. My information is there if you need to get a hold of me. Peter at HeadSet's Sports. Jason Galea, co-founder of HeadSet and colleague of mine. That's his information if you'd like to get a hold of Jay. And then we have a general info at HeadSet Sports email if you feel more comfortable using that. Thanks, everyone. Feel free to drop us a line if you have any questions.